Hey everyone, I'm Robert Holguin. Welcome to this KFOX 14 roundtable discussion focusing today on the film scene here in El Paso and the film incentive in Texas more broadly when it comes to attracting productions to the Lone Star State. I am very pleased to announce that we have a large group today. In fact, we've broken the group into two groups. We're going to begin today with three friends of mine who are very integral to the film scene here in El Paso. We're talking to Carlos Corral, the founder of the El Paso Film Festival, which in fact kicks off this month for yet another year. Carlos, thanks for being with us.
Hello, thank you.
And off to your side here, alongside you, you are joined by Drew Mayer Oaks of the El Paso Film Commission. Drew, also a very important person here in El Paso when it comes to film. Thanks for being with us.
Happy to be with you, Robert.
And finally, we have Gilbert Jorgensen, also a very important person here in the film community. He is the co-owner of Star Central Studios. That is a company that rents film equipment to productions that come into town. Gilbert, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
So we will begin the discussion. Carlos, let's start with you because the film festival kicks off very soon here this month. Let's talk about specifics. Let's get the plugs out of the way and get folks excited about this year's festival.
Well, yeah, the El Paso Film Festival kicks off September 25th through the 27th. We've got a lot of great films, over 60 short films, over 10 feature films, and of course we're opening up with a very, very special guest. Kevin Smith will be here in El Paso for an evening with Kevin Smith, 7 p.m. on Thursday, which will be followed by Lloyd Kaufman presenting a special screening of The Toxic Avenger from 1989. So we've got a pretty wonderful stacked festival. And the other thing too, which Drew will touch upon, Creating Ways is also back, which is the film production panels and the workshops that we've combined to kind of have together when it comes to kind of being a beacon and resource for the local filmmakers here and getting them into the industry, but also meeting filmmakers in the process.
Drew, that's a perfect transition. Let's talk about what you have in store when it comes to this year's festival and what is being done here when to inspire local filmmakers and to help them get their visions onto the screen.
Well, we're very happy to partner again with the El Paso Film Festival for our Creating Ways Creative Industry Conference. So that will run concurrently with the fest and includes panels from everything from getting your music into film and television to acting, how to get started in acting in film and television, and also production itself. And this year we're very excited to have Women in Film panel, which is going to be a real powerhouse panel for us. That will also have 3 film producers that are currently making content in Texas, which is something that I'm very interested in having them meet our film community and hopefully bring some of those projects to El Paso.
So Drew, you mentioned making content, you mentioned getting these things produced, someone who can speak to that, Gilbert Jorgensen. Gilbert, you've been a champion of the film scene and the film community here in El Paso for a long time. Talk to me about where you think things stand right now.
Well, we've never been in a situation where we have all the resources, all the talent, all the things necessary to create and produce high quality feature films. We have feature films and TV shows and documentaries and all kinds of projects on a regular basis. A lot of them are not really televised, so the general public only hears about the very big ones. But we have a very active film community, and a lot of people don't know that we do.
Okay, well, let's talk about ways that will help that community become more active. Do any of you have any ideas or thoughts about priorities when it comes to incentivizing the film community in El Paso specifically?
Well, I always say come network. That's always the best way. Meeting other filmmakers and talking about your projects together in one place is always what's going to spark creativity. And that's the other thing too. Creating Ways is free, and even our film festival has a lot of free screenings and free shows. And then of course we have several ticketed events, but yeah, it's all the level that you want to come to as a filmmaker. And I really feel that sometimes relationships that are made in film festivals are the ones that end up becoming work. And I feel that these two gentlemen here have really seen the fruits of that.
Drew, Gilbert, anything to add to that?
Well, our organization, which is the El Paso Film and Creative Industries Commission, and our Facebook and Instagram handle is Creative El Paso. run, of course, the Creating Ways conference, but we also do educational programming throughout the year. And again, networking is key at these events. We have several events throughout the year that are free and available for all of our film community to attend, and they include educational components. Gilbert also has a nonprofit, which is Star Central Learning Academy, which is really geared toward getting young people inspired and interested and excited about the industry. And he can talk more about that, but that's an amazing tool for getting young people hands-on experience.
That's been a big deal, Gilbert. Talk to us about that.
Well, our organization actually creates the opportunity to have many film students and young filmmakers actually learn on the same equipment they use on the $200 million movies in Hollywood, and gives them access to equipment they otherwise wouldn't have access to at their school or at their university. So it's very important because we want to kind of break the stigma that you have to leave El Paso to work in the film industry. You know, we have all the resources here. The film industry has changed. It's not just Hollywood-centric anymore. Films are produced all over the world in every major city, and El Paso is no exception.
Do you think there is enough support from the city specifically, or even the county, when it comes to trying to get that message across, Gilbert, which you just laid out pretty
they're
eloquently?
starting to notice. It's a long process. For a long time, nobody really paid attention to the film industry. We had a chicken and egg problem. We didn't have any big projects. We didn't have any equipment. We didn't have any big equipment because we didn't have any big projects. So I think we've broken that cycle. I think we're starting to get people, some elected officials' attention, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly you were a big part of breaking that cycle because, again, as I mentioned, your company is essentially like an outrigger, right? You're the company that provides the tools for these companies to come in and not have to bring in equipment from out of town or something. You can kind of hit the ground running if you come into El Paso.
Sure. Yeah. For many years, we just imagine that you're a contractor and you're contracted to build a skyscraper in El Paso, and then you come here and there's no materials available to build that skyscraper. That's what it was like in the film industry. You know, all these things are very big, like all these lights and different grip equipment is very large. So you don't need to travel with it. You rely on the city you're traveling to rent it from. So now we have that infrastructure. You know, we don't have the infrastructure to do a $200 million movie yet, but definitely TV shows, documentaries. We're very busy. Almost every day there's rentals and there's people from here and people out of town that take advantage and shoot things every day here in El Paso.
That's great to hear. You know, being someone who's in front of the camera here, I always have to try to make this about myself. So some 20 years ago, I was in a Miramax movie called Committed with Heather Graham. A couple of small scenes, but I remember very specifically everyone on that crew talking about how difficult to shoot that was because there was nothing here. I mean, it was more than 20 years ago, I guess, at this point, but there was no infrastructure here. So that's a big change, right, guys? I mean, let's expand on what Gilbert's talking about.
Well, part of that change has also been not just all the tools, but I would say the crew members, the local crew members. A lot of things have changed where with the area, with students going to college and going to film school and getting involved in the local industry, there's a lot that they can pull from now, and so much education has come through now that, yeah, we have a vibrant community of filmmakers, and I think that's also part of the objective. It's not just having the tools, but the workforce, and the best way to continue growing that workforce is, again, having events like what we're putting on, like the film festival, Creating Ways, and getting everyone to meet each other, because that's how I feel the community grows. We grow in numbers when we all meet each other and we talk to each other.
That's a great philosophy. Drew, and is there enough support out there? I mean, listen, we're out here in the hinterlands in West Texas. I know that you interface with Austin and the rest of the state. Do you feel like there's enough support here when it comes to the film community?
As Gilbert mentioned, you know, it's growing, and what I've noticed, I've been here for 8 years and relocated from San Antonio area. It really is, I think, changing dramatically, and especially in the last 18 months after having the Warner Brothers film One Battle After Another here in the summer of 2024. It really has raised awareness, so we've seen very good momentum with our city council, county commissioners. I've had meetings with more city officials and county officials this past year than I had in the prior 7 years that I was here. So I think that's a good indication of what's happening. We're actually looking at expanding our role in the film community, working closely with our other city department, the Museum and Cultural Arts Division, to provide grants and other opportunities for our filmmaking community, in addition to exploring local incentives and other options for bringing in more out-of-town production. The new revisions to our state TMIP program, which is the current incentive program, which is heavily revised, is going to provide more leads for us. We're going to have more people inquiring about filming in El Paso, and we've already seen that happen. Our inquiries are up about 50% from where they were about 6 months ago. So that's very encouraging. That new program really puts us on the same playing field as Southern New Mexico, and that's a game changer. So we have to thank the state for coming to the plate and doing that, but our local state legislators all supported this effort, and we thank them for that support. So I would agree with Gilbert that the film community is growing, the support is growing, the awareness is growing, and we want to keep rolling with that. And Robert, your help in publicizing our efforts and talking about this is equally as important, I think.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad that you reminded me about One Battle After Another, which also opens this month, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie that, from what I understand, and perhaps one of you is able to expand on this, Paul Thomas Anderson, legendary director, came to El Paso, wasn't scheduled to shoot here for more than maybe a few days or maybe a week, but loved it so much that he expanded the shoot here and, in fact, reshot some scenes in El Paso. So, again, indicative of how fertile this ground is. Is that fair to say?
I think it is, and what happened with that production was the confluence of all of the pieces of our filmmaking community coming together. So local workers, city government, county government, also private business. So Paul came in and had an idea to film about a week, and it ended up being 3 weeks, which is a pretty substantial increase in the number of days. And we filmed all at night and in very sensitive areas, literally within 1 block of the US-Mexico border. And there wasn't a single issue that came up that we couldn't solve. And that was with the help of both county, city, and state officials, with highways, roads, transportation, the electric company, the water system, you name it. Everybody was on board in helping on this effort. And that really is what I think made the impact on Paul. Visually, he loved the city. But I think when he left, he began to love the people here. And that's something that you can't quantify, but we all know the advantage of that. And our experience is when people come in, they fall in love with the city. And we have that advantage over some of our competitors.
Yeah, and if I can touch on that, Robert, one of the things about falling in love with the people like Paul Thomas Anderson did, a lot of the community was involved in that movie, and not just, our local law enforcement was closing down streets. We had location scouts locally like Jacob Sena who were part of it. I think Genaro Limon was also a part of that production. And also even your very own Ayana Munoz from KFOX, I believe, was cast as an extra in it. So the fact that everyone from every part of El Paso has a connection to this movie, I think is absolutely wonderful. And movies like that, and if I can reference one of yours, you were also in The Day After Tomorrow, where you do play a journalist. But again, it's a lot of those things that really bring the community together, and they all have stories about that production and how the experience helped shape them. So I think I can see where Paul Thomas Anderson's finding the love for the people as well as the city here.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Gilbert, Carlos, Drew, we could talk all day. Thank you very much for your contribution to this roundtable. We're going to keep the conversation going right after this break. All right, welcome back to the second half of our discussion here on the El Paso film community. We're going to meet a group of local filmmakers, and we will begin here with our panel. We're starting with Wally Lozano, Wally is a writer and a producer here in El Paso. We're also going to hear from Valeria Contreras. Now, Valeria is a local filmmaker. She made a very well-received short film called Homesick that was made here in El Paso. She's also been selected as part of the Border Arts Residency that serves as a development incubator for artists here in the borderland. So Valeria, thanks for being with us. And finally, we're going to keep Carlos on the panel because to make clear here, Carlos is also a working film professional in our community. He is a sound specialist. He's also a film instructor at NMSU. So I asked the previous panel if there is enough support here in El Paso for the film community. What say you? How does this panel feel about that?
Well, I think the community is doing very well, but we do have a lot of roles that need to be filled. Like, for example, script supervisors. That's something that we could actually build out and train more people to be script supervisors. We need more assistant directors as well. Those are the people that do the scheduling for films. But overall, our community is, I think, very robust. We're doing very well. I worked in Hollywood for 22 years, and I can tell you from my first-hand experience working here, we have a lot of talent that is overlooked because of where we are, but I think with support from the city, specifically with the localized tax incentive, I think that would help out as well to make us more competitive. Also financing, I think if we had local financing put together like as a film fund to film our projects, like stories that are relevant to the community, that are historically relevant, I think that would be really important to do. But for the most part, I mean, you have to look at it as the last film where Paul Thomas Anderson was here with Warner Brothers, 90 local vendors were used. And I think in about a month's time, they brought in almost $5 million. It was probably like 4.4 million, I think it was the tally. So if you look at restaurants, hotels, I mean, even the gas stations benefited from having that kind of production in place. So $5 million injected into our community, I mean, that's pretty big. So think about if we had one film every quarter, I mean, that would be incredible for the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think to add on that, because there's definitely opportunity to build out infrastructure, be able to bring in productions from out of state, but also be able to incubate projects. And that's why, you know, the Border Art Residency is such a wonderful opportunity to be able to build out a project and develop work through there, but having more opportunities as well for other filmmakers to tell their local stories and be able to really tell their stories and incubate them as well. I think that's another opportunity that we could look at in the future.
And Valeria, that's exactly what you're doing as part of the Border Arts Residency, right? You're actually in development right now.
Yes, yeah. So thanks to the support of the Border Art Residency, I've been working to develop a feature screenplay set here in El Paso. And so it's a whole process to work on the screenplay and also create a short film as a proof of concept. And so being able to have the time, the resources, and the support to do that as an independent filmmaker, as a local filmmaker, I think that's a model that we can really look at as an opportunity to help additional filmmakers tell more local stories. So it's not necessarily only just large productions. We have a big opportunity to build out and support local filmmakers as well.
Yeah, ideally it would be a blend of the two, right, Carlos?
Actually, yeah, I kind of experienced that blend last year. And it's not just out-of-state productions we should be attracting. It should also be out of country. We had a film called The Mechanics of Borders that came from Montreal, Canada. They filmed here in El Paso and in Horizon in February of 2024, and it's currently being completed, and it's going to venture out in film festivals. The budget was a little over $2 million. But even then, most of the key crew did come from Canada, but a lot of the supporting crew was here in El Paso. So when you ask the question, are the resources here? I was able to staff it up, and I was able to get all the right equipment and get all the right crew, and they had a great time here. They were here in El Paso for about 7 days, and then they went on to South Padre Island and then came back to El Paso. So yeah, it's a smaller production, but it still made very much an impact with the amount of crew and equipment that was available here locally, and that's a lot thanks to the resources that are now here.
Okay, so can we talk about the rebate program in the state of Texas for filmmakers, for producers of films? Now, Texas has always had a rebate program, but it's gotten much larger as of this month, in fact. And I know that that rebate program is meant for much larger productions with a higher budget threshold. But let's just talk about that and how that could change things here in El Paso specifically.
Yeah, usually I believe the minimum budget is $500,000 to qualify, but trends show that the business is moving away from Hollywood and it's moving into private equity, it's moving into self-distribution because the everything going digital nowadays has made it a lot easier to distribute, especially with relationships with self-distributing has made it a lot feasible to create businesses outside of Hollywood. Like he was saying, it's gone more international and a lot of localized stories where you can tell your stories, especially here in Texas where we're so rich and abundant in stories. Yeah. It makes sense to make the move to Texas because, I mean, if you look at Texas, you can arguably say we're a country in itself.
I think to add to that, as a callback to the El Paso Film Festival and the Creating Ways conference as well, I think you all called it the future of film is regional. And I think that is so true for the future, and this Texas incentive gives this opportunity to empower local stories, local filmmakers to be able to identify, what is the story that we want to tell and provide, we as a community can build out the infrastructure and continue to build upon it to be able to tap into those resources and have the power of story through these stories that are told locally and able to tap into this incentive that makes it then competitive, not just locally or state or nationally, but globally as well.
But it is good that the state of Texas is putting the step in the right direction, I would say, by lowering that threshold. Even now, I think it's now $250,000 to qualify. Our neighbor next door, as much as we love New Mexico, they are getting a lot of production, and it's great to know that Texas is going to start really competing with getting productions here.
And the program's funded for 10 years, correct?
Yes.
And that's something that I've heard of from a lot of supporters of that rebate program. They say that for every dollar that's sent back to the filmmakers, $4 were spent in the community. Now, some have called that figure into question, but essentially the argument is that the more they spend in a community, yes, they do get some rebate money, they get some tax money back, but that production has spent a lot more money in the city where thhere filming. So, I mean, we're talking about one battle after another. I know they didn't qualify for a rebate, but that's an example that we can use. Okay, so in the time that we have left, I want to go around the horn here and hear from each of you about where the priorities lie, where you would like to see emphasis when it comes to whose cell phone is that? Wally, is that your cell phone? Wally, you told us to silence our phone.
I did turn it off, but the alarm to pick up my kid at school, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's pick it up again. We're talking about priorities. Wally, let's start with you because you have to go pick up your kid.
I think it's important to create a system where we have locally funded films from the community, from the region, and we create stories that tell our stories that are locally relevant, like historical stories, stories that tell triumph in sports. We have a lot of sports stories here. We have a lot of stories in music. I mean, it's abundant. I mean, even Native American stories, all kinds of stories. This is a rich area for stories because we're actually lucky where we sit, and we're part of Texas. We're close to New Mexico, and we're also international because Mexico is right across the border. So I think that is our biggest asset.
Love that. Love that. Valeria?
I think for me, my priorities as a filmmaker, as a director, producer, and also someone engaging with other folks here in the community, I would say there are 5 of them, and that being infrastructure, education, workforce, story, and community, most importantly. And I think with each of these, working together to build out that infrastructure is, it's happening. There are opportunities, as you mentioned earlier, that maybe weren't here before. But having that infrastructure and then the education to further build out the workforce to be able to tap into that infrastructure. So whether a production comes in or a production is homegrown, you have the pipeline that is able to service it. And then the last 2 being story and community, which I think go hand in hand, with story being, as Wally's saying, the opportunity to tell your own story, especially in this region, which, hasn't had the opportunity to highlight it in the way that the community wants necessarily. And I think it's so important to be able to have the tools and the power now with the way the industry is shifting to be able to homegrown those stories and be able to build within community to highlight and elevate those stories.
All right, Carlos, we'll give you the last word.
And I myself, I don't know, I have like a foot in both camps. It's kind of strange because not only am I an instructor at New Mexico State University, a lot of our students there are from El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. They're also from southern New Mexico and northern New Mexico. But that's also one of the great things about cultivating talent that's kind of in this tri-area regarding where we're at, southern New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico. And it's one of the ways, not just with a film festival am I contributing that way, but also as a filmmaker working on films. Like, I'm slated to help Valeria with hers coming up. And again, teaching students who are in our film program, in our digital film program, passing on those skills, passing on the knowledge that we've acquired. And I think it's a great thing. That's how I'm pretty much kind of contributing. So I feel like as long as we keep doing that, that workforce is always going to be here. And it only goes away if everything else goes away. Yeah. So as long as we all keep contributing to our community, I feel like that's what's going to help us grow. So when these productions do come in, we know exactly who to call and when.
Yeah. And I think,
sorry, go ahead.
Just to build on that too, I think that's what's beautiful about filmmaking versus other art forms where it's so reliant on your community and being able to, Carlos is so kind to be able to help and work on my production. How do I help somebody else? It's about building out that community and together bringing in the strengths and resources of everyone. That's how you build out the infrastructure to be able to elevate those stories.
Yeah, I'm part of the brain drain that was happening in El Paso because I didn't see a future here. I had to go to Hollywood. I had to leave El Paso, and luckily for me, I got experience. The pandemic happened, I came home to be close to family, and now I'm able to help people and train people so that the next generation of filmmakers can stay here and they can look at us and say, you know what, I don't need to leave El Paso to make a film. I can do it all here. We have all the resources to do it. And I think that's really important to sustain it, is kind of like help everybody coming up. That way we create infrastructure and everybody stays instead of leaving for other cities.
And Kevin Smith is coming to share a lot of those secrets. So filmmakers, come listen to an independent filmmaker like him. You will learn a lot.
Sure, let's do it again. Let's plug the festival one more time. Why not?
The El Paso Film Festival starts September 25th through the 27th. We're opening up with an evening with Kevin Smith at 7 p.m. at the Plaza Theater, and we've got all sorts of wonderful short films and feature films. Come network, come meet people. You're going to have an amazing time.
If I can add a plug for that too, I think as a filmmaker, as Carlos said earlier, this is where you find your community and your people and how you can collaborate. And so as someone who has participated, come hang out and find your community to make films.
It's one big party.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's in fact a nationally recognized festival at that. So I want to thank all of you for your contributions to this very enlightening conversation. And I want to thank all of you for watching. I am Robert Holguin. We'll catch you on the next Roundtable.